UN and civil society interactions with the private sector. And by civil society we mean the UN definition of civil society, which does not include the private sector. Sometimes you'll go to meetings and they'll just be so woolly about it, and you'll see an industry sitting there and you say, why are they there? And they say, oh, okay, we're just with stakeholders. Because they think civil society, some people think civil society does automatically include the private sector, and it shouldn't. All right? This is the draft statement that Arun started and that we've just worked at. So I'll quickly read this through. We are aware that in the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and subsequent World Health Assembly resolutions protect mothers and children from any commercial influence that would undermine optimal it should actually say breastfeeding and infant and young child health. Sorry, we haven't done that. Breastfeeding practices for infant and young children. Sorry, that's gone a bit convoluted. We declare that we are not connected directly or indirectly to any industry that manufactures or markets baby foods and feeding products, and or it should be, for infants and young children. I mean, one may need to think really carefully about what that means, directly or indirectly. We endorse the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes, the World Health Assembly's position on conflicts of interest made in 1996, 2002 and 2008. That should say, and resolutions actually, isn't it? We can tweak this, yeah, but it's all of it. So signatory, and you'd need to sign this designation on behalf of your organisation. Okay? So that will need a little bit of tweaking, I can see that, I didn't notice that, sorry, but in general principle that's the sort of thing we're looking for. Now, we're recommending that economic operators that fall into this category of conflict of interest are not permitted on the board of any coalition with UN bodies such as WHO and UNICEF, so that public health policy is not subject to undue influence. We recommend WHO and UNICEF to apply the above to their own guidelines on interaction with commercial enterprises to achieve health outcomes. That needs an S. They've got their own guidance. They're not brilliant, but they're not bad. Also, paragraph 44 of the Global Strategy for Infant and Young Child Feeding, which specifies the role of corporations in infant feeding, which is to stick to the code and make sure they have safe products, but nothing more. Also, WHO resolutions 49, 15, 58, 32 and 6120, which all mention conflict of interest and the need to guard against that, and to immediately stop their partnership with GAIN. So we put that on there because I'm going to tell you in a minute. GAIN is been invited to a meeting at the moment that's going on in Geneva, looking at complementary feeding of infants in the 6 to 24 months. And we understand that GAIN is actually led a workshop and also something, but it chaired a workshop there, invited by WHO and UNICEF. So this is really, really serious. So we have drafted a letter. Anyway, I'll carry on with the overheads now. The group recommends a need for a scoping survey followed by a mechanism for ongoing monitoring of existing projects on infant and young child feeding in relation to conflict of interest. And we would expect UNRISD, development partners, governments and civil society groups to carry out this, and we haven't worked out how, but UNRISD has done an excellent paper on UN business partners. There are all sorts of things coming up that we need to gather this information together and keep an eye on what's happening. We recommend that there be no introduction of any product during the 6 to 24 plus months. I'm not happy with the 24, I must say, without an independently researched evidence base to support such interventions. and that products should only be introduced during the 6 to 24 months within the framework of the global strategy on infant and young child feeding and not in isolation. And we want this group to adopt statements on infant feeding and globalization that's in your packages, and the common statement on PPPs, which again is in your packages, which recognize the context in which we're all operating. We also expect large donors and NGOs to respect the principle of conflict of interest in their funding arrangements. This last one, I wasn't sure we could put it in, but I think we'll do it. I like it. Expect them to speak out about the impact of the free market on food security and be honest about the risks of PPPs to health, sustainable development and justice. Okay? I mean, it's a slightly pie in the sky one, but there we go. We were meant to look at marketing. We didn't really have very much time. So I've just put down there that there's a lot of codex work. Yes, I will at the end. Codex work. Contact INFAN for information about upcoming codex work. So contact Betty or I. Betty in the corner at the back there. And then also do monitoring, so contact INFAN again for help on that. We didn't really have time to go into that. Last thing, immediate action. Write to Geneva meeting and WHO, the Director General, and UNICEF ED about the game problem. Okay? So I will then, how do we get to the other thing on the, there's a letter that we've already drafted, which if you like I can either circulate or show it to you on the screen. The draft letter game, yeah. Oh, it actually shouldn't say game, but never mind.